Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk spider's web Fatsia. This is Fatsia japonica spider's web. This is one of our absolute favorite plants here in the garden in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're in zone 7B, and I'll tell you why that's relevant in a couple of minutes. Just like other Fatsia japonica, this is an evergreen, and it has these kind of giant palmate leaves on them. Really, really beautiful foliage on all Fatsia, really. The thing that makes this one such a great plant is the variegation, the striping and the speckling and the spotting with white variegation. And you'll see it earlier in the season, much more pronounced. So the new growth in the spring is much more pronounced. As the season goes on, the variegation in it's a little more muted. And as we can see right here, we're filming this in November. It's very muted at this point, but still quite beautiful and quite striking. And you can see some of the newer variegation down here below this. And then of course, as you can see, these almost alien-like flowers on top of this thing. This is one of the most amazing pollinator plants because it's blooming at a time when other things are not. This will reach 4 to 5 feet in height, maybe 3-4 feet in width. Over time, it can be kept smaller than that. Probably if you never pruned it, it could get a little taller than that. Sometime about mid-fall, you'll see these flower spikes start to form on Fatsia, and they almost look alien. It's just these round clusters of white flowers that the pollinators absolutely love. Right now, I've got some sort of small non-stinging wasp that I can't identify. There are ants on it pollinating. I've seen flies on it. I've seen bees on it. While leading up to shooting this video, it seems like almost everything that's out and about and is in need of something is landing on these flowers, and so it's the perfect time of year for that. But Fatsia is somewhat tricky here in zone 7. I think most of us would say they're very hardy in zone 8 to 10, but here in zone 7, especially 7A, we tuck them up against. We'll tuck it up against a house here. I don't want any winter wind on it. This is a plant that, if I was going to go around, if I had something that was just abnormally cold, like our average low temperature is probably somewhere around 10. If we had something, this one's been in the ground about 24 months. If we had something coming below that, this might be one that I would protect in zone 7. But I've never had an issue. I've never had an issue as long as I kept them out of the wind, put them in a place with slightly well-drained soil. I don't think it will be an issue for you. Spider's web Fatsia, and really any Fatsia japonica, these are part shade or shade plants. And that's a lot of times true with things with big, giant, tropical-looking leaves like this. You can kind of identify that thing probably doesn't want to be out in the full sun. It's trying to collect. It has this oversized leaf to collect light that's kind of bouncing around a forest. It's kind of probably how this evolved. We're going to use this beautiful plant. I mean, look how striking the foliage is on this thing. We've got it just as an accent plant here on the corner of the foundation, just as a specimen, a single specimen by itself. It could be mass planted, but I've never seen two of these spider's web Fatsia look the same. They're all, the variegation is different, the growth habits sometimes different. They're just interesting by themselves, in my opinion. This will work as a container plant, but definitely not in zone 7, probably not even like 8A, but if you were in 9 or 10, that would be fine. And if you just almost checked out of this video because you found out you couldn't grow it, you can. You can use this as a house plant. And as long as you have, in the house, you'd want as much light on it as you could possibly get. The brightest window you could find. And outside, we want to protect it from direct sun. But anybody can use this as a house plant or outside. And again, I think it looks best. It's just a single specimen. So we have a dwarf camellia next to it. This is shorter than the camellia right now. It'll eventually be taller than the camellia, and it'll be in flower, in November, and it'll be quite showy up here against the blue on the house as well. Spider's web Fatsia would also work great in a mixed border, or if you needed a low screen in a part shade or shaded space. Just being careful again if you're in zone 7 or maybe 8A that it's not out in the open wind where, in the wintertime it's going to, that dry winter winds can definitely cause this plant, can wreak havoc on this plant. These are adaptable to alkaline soils, to acid soils, to most soil types. They're not that picky, really. Pretty easy, low maintenance plants. It likes moist, well-drained soil. And so this corner space here happens to be a spot that, you know, actually holds a little more water between rains and watering. It's not wet, but it tends to be slightly more damp over a longer period of time. And I mounded this up when I planted it, and it's been perfectly happy over here. They like to, you know, keep some moisture. Now, I'm not telling you to put it in a wet area. You know, it does need to dry out between rains and watering some, but a moist area isn't that big of a deal. These will become very drought tolerant, and they're good at letting you know once they're very established. We've seen a couple of them over here on NC State's campus that are up on raised walls and things where they're quite mature, and I don't think they're getting any additional watering. Here's a bee that's come to visit at that time. So again, adaptable to soil types. Don't put it in an area that's going to hold water, but they're not, you know, some moisture's okay. That's what I'll say. There's almost always a pollinator on here to watch, enjoy these alien-like flowers. These are very humidity tolerant. Maintenance-wise, I fertilize everything in this landscape, a shrub or a tree, in late winter, early spring with an organic fertilizer once a year, and that's it. That would definitely be important on something like Fatsia. I don't want to fertilize this in the summer or late summer or early fall, because this is a plant that would be very vulnerable to putting on new growth right at a time when it's about to get smashed. I think that if you're in zone 7 or 8, I would spring plant this plant. I didn't follow my own advice on this, and I planted this in like October or November a couple of years ago, and it did struggle. That first winter, it definitely got knocked back quite a bit, and it's taken a long time for it to recover. It's finally growing, and it's putting on some growth pretty quickly now. These are slow to start and then quicker in time on their growth. Pruning, you can prune this anytime after the worst of the winter is past, and you won't have to do a lot of pruning on it, but I think sometime in the future, the Fatsia tend to get little crazy limbs here and there, and you can take those all the way back to the ground if you want to, not a problem, or you can individually lower them all at one time, and that would happen again in the spring into early summer. That's about as late as I would do it. These flowers occur on new growth from that season, so you'll still get flowers, or they occur on last year's growth, even if you don't prune it. So you'll get flowers regardless. As long as you're getting it done by early June, you'll still get flowers that season. We keep the area mulched, you know, around it, and again, it's got pretty even moisture over here. It's not wet, it's not dry, kind of the perfect spot. So this is Spider's Web Fatsia. This is from the Southern Living Plant Collection. It's one of our absolute favorite plants in our landscape. Thanks for watching.